Okay, welcome everyone to this episode of the Sync Your Life podcast. I'm so grateful today to have my friend, Jayme Thompson, with me. Jayme is a recent course taker of the Sync digital course, and I'm excited to be doing this little series here where for the entire month of April, I'm going to be doing basically little coach sessions, right? Like little coaching sessions where I meet with people who are taking my course and I ask them about their progress and I really kind of check in with them to see how things are going, what they're learning, where I can serve them better. And I want you guys to be able to hear that because I think a lot of times people say, oh, is this course something that could help me? And there's no better way to know than to hear from other people and to hear what other people are experiencing and what's helping them. So Jayme has been so kind to be my first little guinea pig here for the course. She's been in the course just over a month, I think. So relatively still new. She's still on the journey for sure of kind of investigating her hormone health. But we became friends years ago through our network marketing business. And she's also a health and fitness coach. And I've just loved getting to know her. We're both small town girls, so we have a lot in common when it comes to that small town girl mentality of friendship and connection and being real with people. And so I know you guys are going to take away some realness today from this call. So first of all, Jayme, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here and so grateful for you and all you have shared.
Well, let's tell everyone that's listening, who are you? Like from day to day, who is Jayme?
Well, I'm a mother of three. I was a former elementary third grade teacher, married to a high school basketball coach, and we have now moved the third time, and we've been where we are at for 4 years now. So hopefully we're staying a little longer this time. I have a 19-year-old daughter, a 14-year-old son, and a 9-year-old son. They all keep us very, very busy. I've been with health and wellness for almost 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. Wow. But I've just kind of come to a point where I realize, I hit 40 and things weren't working for me that always seemed to work for me. So I am grateful that I found, I'm glad we've been friends. Gosh, I think we met on, I thought of this the other day. We met on the shuttle.
On a bus.
Heading to the cruise. Yeah.
Yes, we met on a little bus, a little transit
and we were
bus.
all like, we're from Indiana. Oh, you're from Indiana. And then we realized we connected so much. So yeah, I've always been really grateful that you and I met because I feel like we definitely connected and have stayed connected. So being able to watch you and see everything you've been sharing helped me a lot to finally say, okay, I think I need to know more. So
yeah. So I mean, I know that when we first started talking, it was I'm feeling off, like something's off, and I think I need to learn more about hormone health. Can you tell us a little bit about when did you last feel your best?
Well, I turned 40. We had just moved and we had to move into a rental while we were waiting for our house. So moving a family into a very small space, turned 40, and then COVID and quarantine in a very small space with your family. That was probably the last time I remembered, like I felt good, I had energy, and it was just like a spiral from there. Like I just felt things just started being way off. I noticed a lot in my energy. I noticed a lot in my brain fog. Like I would just have days where I felt like I could not focus and do anything. And then of course the weight gain that started then as well.
And I know you've also talked about like sleep issues, like trouble sleeping or good quality of sleep as well.
Yeah. That's been kind of later. That wasn't probably one of the things I noticed early on. I never had issues with sleeping. And then probably in the last year, I realized I started like waking up through the night my attention issues. I always have kind of an issue with actually calming myself down to go to sleep. But just the waking up was so weird. And I used to be good at being able to like get up in the morning. I used to be that 5 a.m.er. Like
Not
I
anymore.
have to, no, not
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. So when you started feeling this way, did you take any initiatives with your current, with your primary care doctor at that time, or did you ask questions to any sort of doctor about what could be going on for you?
Yeah. It was a year ago. And I finally was like, okay, I've got to figure out what is going on. Like this is not right. I'm wanting to literally drop dead and take a nap at 2:30 every day. Like this is not me. So I found a doctor, and I'd always kind of question, things like maybe there's something with my thyroid. Like, I don't know, like what's going on. This was all new to me. I had no idea about this topic at all. And she said my thyroid was enlarged. She could feel that. So I had blood work done, which of course I didn't know if I was getting the right stuff or anything. Had blood work done, all of it came back normal, and just was deficient in a couple of vitamins they wanted me to add in and supplement. But I did have an ultrasound done on my thyroid, and they saw a nodule. Then I get back that, oh, that's normal, check in a year. So I basically was handed like no answers, still feeling terrible. Started the vitamins. I can't tell you if that really honestly did anything. I don't think it did, to be honest, because I never felt any better. My nutrition just continued to get worse. Like my cravings for like the carbs and the sugar, just everything is like everything I'd worked so hard at, feeling like I'd overcome, and was just like spiraling out of control. And yeah, I had no direction. Then it was my daughter's senior year. So I put myself on the back burner, and my focus was on her and everything she had going on. So I never went to another doctor, never got a second opinion or anything, just kind of started following other people. And of course, I had watched you, and I think I reached out to you, I don't know how many times, and you're like, I have this course. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I know. And
Yeah. So isn't it funny? I mean, I just think it's so interesting. I mean, how many women, I was just talking about this with a friend last night. It's so common for women to want to, prioritize and put everyone else on the front burner. And I mean, myself included, I've been in that position too. And sometimes you feel like, I know my check engine light's flashing. I know there's something off. I always say I like to measure everything in energy, right? And so women know when their energy is off. But a lot of times it's like, but, my kids come first, my husband comes first, taking care of my parents comes first. If I had $1 for every person who's ever said, well, when my daughter graduates, I'm going to investigate this, or when my daughter gets through what she's going through, right? Like when someone else gets to this next point, I'll start to prioritize myself. So if you're listening to this, let this be your warning that putting yourself off does not make you better for the people that you love, right? And it doesn't make you better for yourself either. So that's my biggest goal with this course and this podcast and everything that I'm doing, is to make sure that people, especially women, are feeling that energy, that you wake up every day with that energy that you can then put toward the people that you love. And it's not a selfish thing to say, okay, I'm really going to get to the root of this, right? I mean, I was just talking to someone last night, another client, and they said they're getting ready to really focus on their gut health and really take their gut health seriously. And they're following a regimen for that. And they said, selfishly, she said this to me, selfishly, I'm doing this for me. And I thought, it's girlfriend, it is not selfish. Like you're doing it for you because you deserve to feel good. Right. So I just wanted to pause and say that really quick. So, okay. So then COVID happens, right? So that's a disaster in itself, and we won't go there, but COVID happens and everybody's feeling the stress, and then you're home with everybody and you're quarantined. So, you said that it sounds to me like, I'm guessing that the general practitioner or whoever you were seeing that did the blood work, and I want to say this too, a lot of times when you say something feels off, typical modern medicine doctors, and this is not to shame them, there is definitely a place for modern medicine, but a lot of times they'll do just what's considered to be a basic metabolic panel. So they'll do basic blood work to make sure that nothing is alarmingly wrong, right? but they don't do a lot of specific testing when it comes to, even with the thyroid. They might look at your general TSH and your general thyroid, but they might not be digging deeper to the T3, T4, to the thyroid antibodies. There's a lot of other things that can be looked at. And so that's what I love so much about functional wellness, right? Is like getting to the root cause of what's going on and to do that deeper testing so that then you can kind of start to connect the dots on what's needed for you to kind of get back up to speed, right? For you to supplement accordingly, or for you to kind of get yourself back. So anyway, so you finally make the decision, you reach out to me. I think we did talk multiple times, and I'm like, okay, you need to get into the course. You need to start digging in. And the next thing I know, you get into the course, and then it was like 2 days later and you're like, I just binged everything. You're like, I just watched all the videos. I just listened to all the podcasts. Like, oh my gosh, I'm just so overwhelmed. So tell me, like, coming into the course, what stood out to you? What was your first aha moment that, where you thought this is something I need to do?
Yeah. Well, I did. I binged everything. I was like painting my office and listening to everything. And I'd stop and take like 3 pages of notes. And it helped me to like go and say something to my husband about it, or go say something to my daughter, because it helped me retain it. Or I would share it with some of my ladies, like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown. Like, this makes so much sense. But I think for me, the biggest thing was like, wow, I really wish that when I was, whatever year, how old, like understanding our cycles and everything that is really going on. And I literally, I'm 42 years old. And some of that I was like, wow, that really explains so much of the things that we have gone through. And having, a daughter, I'm like, you need to understand this stuff. Like, you need to watch this stuff now and understand it. So, because she's already had her own issues with some of the things, and understanding that, wow, that's really not supposed to be that way. That's not normal. We're taught to think some of these things are normal, and they're not really normal to have those types of symptoms. Kind of like I said, it led to me having the ablation done and having other things done, or, going to my doctor and saying I feel off, and I am on an antidepressant, but sometimes I wonder, okay, but let's get to my root cause. Like, I know there's something deeper going on that can be causing those issues. So I think just hearing you just explain all the things. I loved the 4-legged chair. That helped so much with like understanding all the things that are going on. All of it. I mean, I felt so educated.
Like, well, I just remember, I had a few of you guys reached out to me around the same time, and each of you were saying the same thing, which is okay. Like, and I love that. I love when people come into the course and they get through the content and then they act on it, because sometimes people can say like, am I really going to use this course? Like, if I invest in this course, am I really going to apply it? And so I love when people come in and they just take the bull by the horns, and they're like, okay, like module 1, she's teaching me how to find a functional medicine doctor. She's giving me the testing to ask for. I'm going to go do it. Right. And so there were a handful of you that came in around the same time who all did that. And so I started getting this immediate feedback of, first it was, I binged all the videos, I'm learning so much. And then a couple of weeks later, I'm in my doctor's waiting room, and I can't wait. And it's so funny because most of the time as women, we hate sitting in the waiting room, right? Like, and I think it comes as a result of the fact that what you just said, we don't feel educated on our body. We know that something's off, but we aren't in the doctor position. And so we put too much reliance on the doctor to know what's going on for us, as opposed to understanding what's going on in our body and asking the right questions. So by you coming into the course, downloading the file of what to ask my doctor about, taking the symptom quiz, like having the supplement guide, having the different things that are provided. I remember hearing from you and from others at the same time. I feel so confident going into this appointment. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm on the right track. I feel like I know exactly where I'm headed. I know what I'm asking for, and I'm not going to take anything less than this for an answer. And unfortunately, it does happen sometimes where, a lady will go to a doctor and it still isn't the right fit, or they have to keep that can be a journey in itself of finding the right doctor. But I love that you're one of the ones that just said, no, I'm doing this. And so tell us about kind of where you've been since then. So you went to a functional medicine doctor. Tell us about that experience.
And like you just said, like when I'm talking to her and she's going through all my stuff and she would say things, I'm like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Like I felt so educated going into that. Whereas my first appointment, a year ago, I had no idea, like nothing, was totally clueless on all this whole topic. But just to have her say things, and then I printed off all your forms you gave us, and she was like, wow, this is awesome. She was like, I do all this. And I was like, okay. I felt so relieved to feel like, wow, I finally feel like I'm moving in the direction to start getting answers and to feel like myself again. So I was able to get all the testing done that you also recommend, and she did all of them. And now I'm just at the point of just waiting now for my next appointment will be going over results to see
the results, right? Yeah, I know you've gotten some of your blood work back and you're still waiting on your Dutch test results and some other things too. So one thing that we teach in the course is about, the accuracy and inaccuracy of certain types of tests. And that's something that's worth mentioning here too. If your doctor if you're telling them that you feel off and they're sending you in for blood work and they're not going a level deeper and they're not looking at salivary test results or urinary test results, it's most likely that we're not getting a very accurate picture of your hormones. And so I like to teach women that first. That's kind of how you know when you have the right doctor on board, is if that doctor says to you, hey, we'll do some blood work as a baseline, but it's not going to be a super accurate picture of what's going on for you. So let's do something more. Then you have the right person. Okay. So that's always going to be number one. Number two is, and I've had this happen multiple times where I have taken my Dutch test results or whatever to a doctor, and they look at it and they are completely honest with me. And they say, this is not something that I specialize in. This is not something that I understand. So again, getting the right practitioner is going to be helpful for everyone so that you feel like this person knows what they're doing. They know what they're prescribing for me. They know what they're looking at. They know how to interpret these results. I am by no means, I'm not a practitioner at this point. But I do like to walk alongside the women in the course and to help them know what to ask about and what to not settle for. So obviously, first and foremost, if you're going to someone and they're just wanting to do basic blood work and they say everything looks normal, don't settle for that. Push and ask for more. If they say no, find another doctor, even just as a second opinion. But also when it comes time to meet with that functional medicine doctor and go over your results, there are also some things to be paying attention to. One of those things, and this is, we don't have Jayme's test results to go over for this, but this is something that I'll call attention to her and to anyone listening, because Jayme has mentioned that she's turned 40, she started noticing these changes. To me, and again, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to diagnose her or prescribe her with anything, but just being someone who's been in this world for a while now, I can say that given her age, given the signs that she's seeing, the sleep issues, the carb cravings, I'm guessing her adrenals are at play. I'm guessing her progesterone is at play. So the things that I'm most interested in seeing with Jayme for her to pay attention to are those markers when she gets her Dutch test results. I want her to go into this appointment for this follow-up, and I want her to ask about not just, are my levels okay, but also, are my ratios okay? And that's something that we teach in the course, right? So you could have a doctor that tells you your estrogen's fine, your progesterone's fine, your testosterone's fine. But you have the right doctor when the doctor is also talking to you about the ratios between those things, between your progesterone and your estrogen. Just a little teaching moment, right? And I've said this on the podcast before, but it's worth mentioning again. For some women, like for me, it happened in my 30s, for Jayme, maybe at age 40, right? So it just depends on the woman, but your progesterone will actually start to decline before your estrogen does. And so what happens is it creates this big gap, right? This large ratio between estrogen and progesterone. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your estrogen's high. It also doesn't necessarily mean that your progesterone is too low. It just means that the gap between the two is too wide. So as a result of that, that's when we start to see the body hold on to excess fat, especially in like the lower belly, the hips and thighs especially. And your adrenals are compensating more for sex hormone production. So your ovaries start to work less and less, right? Your fertile years are winding down slowly, even if it does take 10 years, they're winding down. So your ovaries are producing less, your adrenals start to produce more. And your adrenals, I'm guessing even just from your situation, right? You're moving, you were living in a rental. Like, so not only are you, this is all happening at one time. It's like a perfect storm of stress, internal stress, external stress. And what I see most women do, and I don't know if this is the case for you, Jayme, but what I see most women do is they just say, I just need to push harder. And they say, I just need to, maybe I'll do 2 workouts a day. I'll do 75 hard. Right? I'll do, I'm going to cut back. I'm going to cut back on my fat, or I'm going to cut back on my carbs. And what happens when that happens is your body goes into a state of fight or flight. It's like, holy crap, what's she doing to me? I'm already stressed. And now, of course, exercise is a stressor. So now she's exercising me even more. So now I'm even more stressed. And so what does it do? You gain more weight, right? And it's so frustrating. So is that kind of, am I summarizing?
You just described me to a T. Yes, that was exactly, I was like, oh my gosh, like I cannot, everything I'd always done, I'm not losing and I'm gaining, right? In exact areas you said. And so, and
you and I are both, and you and I are both like health and fitness people. Like we love to work out. I mean, our workout is our therapy, right? And so I think it's so common. I mean, I went through this too in 2017 when I definitely had a big progesterone dip. I did, thanks to the testing that I had been doing, I could compare and see what was happening. But when I had that happen, at first I thought like, I just need to work harder, right? Like, because in my 20s, I was super, and I was thinking this in my mind, in my 20s, I was super lean and I was exercising an hour a day. So I'll go back to that. Right. And you go back to that and then you're like, wait, nothing's working and I'm gaining more weight and I'm more tired and I'm sleeping worse. Right. So, again, if you're listening to this and you're like, I feel like she's describing me, the best way to really tackle this is to, step 1, go about finding a functional medicine doctor and getting the right testing. The number 1 nutrient that you're deficient in is the number 1 nutrient that you are deficient in. It's different for every single person. So I can give you my general top supplements to take, but it doesn't mean that it's attacking what your specific deficiency is. From there though, and this is where I want to take the conversation, from once we start getting progress. So with Jayme, she's starting to get progress, right? She's starting to I have a feeling that in your mind, you kind of know what these results are going to show you based on what you've learned in the course. And so, so now you're going to feel educated going into this second appointment and you're going to ask the right questions. And I'm hoping that they are going to put you on some, whether it's bioidentical hormone therapy, or they're going to put you on some sort of supplements that will help you get in the right direction with that. In the course, I teach about the four fundamentals of hormone balance, right? Your supplementation, your nutrition, your sleep, and your fitness. In my experience, at least with the women I've worked with so far, getting the proper supplementation and really kind of steering away from inflammatory foods and proper nutrition really, most of the time, takes care of the sleep, right? It takes care of the sleep because now their body is getting what it needs. And so it can relax. Okay. The adrenals aren't in overdrive. So let's touch on the fitness and nutrition piece. Obviously you've been someone who has followed, I'm guessing maybe a couple of different types of fitness or nutrition regimens. What has worked for you before? What stopped working? And what are you doing now? I guess is the question.
Well, I definitely went through like a phase of life with, pregnancies and things. So for me, the first time ever really following any type of nutrition plan was definitely when I plugged into just the portions that worked for me. Until, I felt like, okay, I've always been one who struggled with nutrition. So issues with disordered eating and binge eating. So, those things I always have to work on mindset, which is definitely where I'm at still. It's a constant work for me. Then moving into more of, I really did like the principles that were taught with the 2B mindset that I really did like that. So it kind of moved me into more of like, okay, let's start doing more intuitive eating. But when you struggle with eating issues and disordered eating, that sometimes can come back and can be an issue. So I feel like I found myself in a battle with that. But so when I stop and look at it, when I really need to be really plugged in and really paying attention, I think it is the portions that helps me. I need a little more discipline for sure. So learning from your, nutrition and understanding some things I need to change, I need to adjust because we need more of those certain foods. That's kind of helped me to kind of open my eyes of, okay, mapping out my plan of what I'm going to be doing is where I'm at. So that's kind of the nutrition side, but the fitness side, I was totally amazed by everything I probably was doing wrong for so long. And like you said, like I was a cardio junkie. I mean, I've always loved cardio, where to the point where that has probably been, I know I've overtrained in the past. I did teach classes too. So I know I probably did a lot of things wrong, and having to understand I need to follow my cycle, and there's a certain plan for that, and seeing that plan, and now being able to start working to implement that is where I'm at.
Yeah. I can think back to high school. I was a high school athlete, and there were a couple of girls on our cross country team one in particular that really struggled with, I think, endometriosis and some menstrual cramps each month.
Yeah.
And I can remember her like doubling over at practice, like once a month. And the coach just saying, well, just get your 3 miles in, and then, you can go home. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like now knowing what I know now, I'm like, and
yeah.
Dr. Stacy Sims, who is the author of Roar, which is an awesome book. And she's also been viral for her TED Talk called Women Are Not Small Men. She's really passionate about teaching male and female coaches how to work with adolescent athletes, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but she was I don't know if she was the nutritionist or whatever, but she was a consult for the USA women's soccer team, and really got them into the rhythm of cycle syncing with their workouts and with their nutrition. And obviously we don't need to talk about the USA women's soccer team. They're pretty incredible. So, but I think this is something that needs to start coming about. It needs to be, awareness needs to be there for this idea of cycle syncing. And, I like to say that if you're just pounding the pavement every day as a runner, or you're, hitting the treadmill or the elliptical, or you're just pressing play on a home program every day, and there's no strategy behind it catered to your cycle, you could very easily be working against your physiology. So you could be really taxing those adrenals in ways that they shouldn't be taxed. You could be affecting the regularity of your menstrual cycle. I see that happen a lot, myself included. I know when I'm training too hard, when my menstrual cycle starts to get wonky. And you have to pay attention to it, right? Because if you're not, you're ignoring that check engine light. And then later down the road, you might not notice it until you stop sleeping or you start gaining weight, right? Those are the later signs that you're working against your physiology. So I know that one thing that you had said was the meal plans were helpful. Like when you got into the course, like seeing the meal plans laid out of this is what you should eat week to week in your cycle, broken down by phase. So far, I mean, it sounds like you've really started implementing quite a bit. Like you're making progress with the functional doctor. You're paying attention. I've seen in your stories and stuff, you're like, I'm taking a rest day. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I know where she is in her cycle. I know what she's doing. Right. So how do you feel so far? I know that you haven't started, there's not much supplementation happening yet, but how are you feeling as far as energy? Are you noticing any differences?
Well, I mean, I'm proud of myself. Like you said, taking a rest day, that's huge. That's a huge step, because I mentally look for fitness and movement as my therapy. But realizing, like, pushing myself when I don't need to be, that's huge. And understanding, like, okay, this is when I really need to be lifting heavy. I really need to be lifting, or okay, it's time to rest. That's huge, because I've always just been like, okay, here's my schedule, just going to do this. And no matter how horrible I feel today, I'm going to do this cardio workout and kill myself and feel terrible and not even realize that I just totally should have done that. Or, I'm going to go and do a second workout. Like my brain is not there anymore. So that just tells me I've made huge, huge leaps in progress with this, to have that mindset changed, and feel like happy and excited that I have something that I can follow that's going to be good, and teach my daughter, because she needs to understand that with her fitness right now, that I mean, she, like I said, she has those issues, and you're talking about the cramping. And I mean, I remember those days too. I remember when it was mile day in PE in high school. And I mean, I'm literally doubled over and like, I'm not doing it today because you
Yeah.
physically couldn't. So you think back now, knowing a lot of these things, you think back to all the things you went through those years. And so helping her to see that there's certain
Yeah.
things she needs to be doing too is huge. It's a topic that is not
Not talked
shared.
about. No.
No,
No, I mean, even amongst women, I think it's so interesting that
no.
even women, I mean, I could be at a 3-day weekend with women and the subject of hormone health is just not going to come up. Like, it's just not like, and a woman could be suffering the entire 3-day weekend with menstrual cramps and you never know it, right? We just take the Advil, we just push through it. We find, and that's society.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to like sex education in middle school, right? And it was about how you have a baby,
Right.
and how to prevent pregnancy, like how to protect yourself from, from that. And I think back and I'm like, I think I was probably 25 before I had an understanding of what my cycle even was. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was like, well, what day of your cycle are you on? And I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? And she, I didn't even understand what that meant. I didn't know how many days my cycle was. I didn't know what. And then, so it's funny because I hear this a lot from women who have taken the course and they start to follow the fitness plan that's in the course. And they say, oh, like, I just heard this last week. A girl was like, I was going to go take my usual Orange Theory class on a particular morning. And she's like, but the class was full or something happened and she couldn't get there. So she's like, so I ended up just going to my local YMCA that I'm a member of. And she said, I just looked at the fitness calendar for the day and I saw that it said some sort of yoga or low impact yoga. And she's like, so I just decided to go into one of the empty rooms and do what it said on the calendar. And she's like, my body feels so good. And so it's like, it's almost like an after effect, right? Like they follow the calendar and then they're like, wow, that felt really, well, of course it felt really good because you're following the energy of your cycle at that time.
Right.
Had she gone to the Orange Theory class or to the high impact class, would she have felt that good? We don't know. But I remember her saying like, and she was sharing it in her social, right? Like, I'm so glad I followed that because my body feels so much better for having done it. And so it is so powerful. I mean, everything. It's funny because when I thought about creating this program, I thought about it being just fitness and nutrition related, because that's what my world had been. It had been, personal training and helping people with home programs. And I thought, I'm still not getting deep enough. Like if we only talk about workouts and nutrition and there's some sort of imbalance or something underlying, then these people are still not going to get results. So that's why I take you through step by step of, finding that doctor, getting the right testing, asking the right questions, getting the right supplementation. And then the icing on the cake is, okay, let's start cycle syncing your workouts. Let's start getting you comfortable with that. Some women are coming in not having exercised in quite some time. So it's a good starting point for them too. And then of course, the nutrition, taking the guesswork out of it and giving you exactly what to eat during the phases of your cycle. So anyways, okay, we've come full circle. So my final question for you before we wrap it up is just, what would you say to the person listening who's like, I feel off, not sure where to start? And then what's next for you? Like, are you thinking about getting sync certified? Are you, talking about this? I know you have a large followership of women who look to you for advice and health and wellness. Like, are you using this information to teach them as well? So if you could cover both of those things, that'd be super.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I've definitely been sharing, little bits of what I've learned and what have already been implemented, with my following, with my group, with the ladies I already help, because I'm like, some of them are younger and I want them to understand, like, this is a topic you need to be understanding and learning now, not when you're 40 and they're like, what happened? You need to be in that topic early on and understand. Yes, I am definitely wanting to get certified because I want to be able to help as many other women as I possibly can, because this is something that I hear all the time. I'm tired. I brain fog. I'm not seeing results. I'm doing all the things and something's just not right. I was shocked at how many women, when I first kind of opened up and kind of shared just how many women are going through it and don't know where to go, don't know where to turn, are going to the wrong places, aren't getting the right test. So it's something I feel like I need to have in my back pocket of tools so that I can also lead them to get answers to feel better too.
Yeah.
Because you are leading the way on that, and I appreciate you so much.
Well, I think I think it's true that like that's my goal, right? Is like, if I can help you and then you turn around and help somebody else and then they help somebody else, like it's just a domino effect. And I've seen the power of that in multiple ways in the past several years. But I just think that this is information that needs to get out there. And it's, I think Michael Phelps coined the phrase, it's okay to not be okay, right? Which is directed at the mental health aspect of things. But I think in a lot of ways, this physical health component affects our mental health. And when we're not talking about it, and we're just keeping it in, and we feel like our check engine lights are flashing and we're just like, well, oh, well, because my daughter's in this phase of her life or my son's in this phase of his life, and we're just making sure that everybody else gets that priority, we're doing ourselves a big disservice, not just in the short term, but in the long term. And so, it's never too late. I know that we had that conversation when you came to me and you're like, what do I do now? Like, I feel like I've done all these things wrong. Like, what do I do now? Well, guess what? It's not too late. Like, you just turned 40, you're entering this new phase. And I think you're going to learn so much just in the approach that you're already taking. So I just want to thank you for being with me today and for sharing this story with everybody who's listening. Hopefully everyone's getting something out of this. I'm excited to do more of these interviews here in the next few weeks. So you guys get to hear from a multitude of people dealing with different struggles when it comes to their hormones and what they're up to now and how they're progressing. So Jayme, thanks so much for being with me today. I value your friendship so much. And to have you be my first little guinea pig on here means the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.